Congratulations on getting that jersey. So we're going to move into the next session. And if your day is long, it's in part due to this session and due to me. As we were sort of finalizing the conference schedule, I think as many of you know, there was this issue with some of the data in the NHL, and it seemed like the timing of it was really good for us to have a conversation. And so that's going to be our plan. It's somewhat late breaking. Very fortunate enough to have Brad here in town. And that works out really nicely for us. And I was fortunate enough to convince Josh and Luke to make their first foray, non-naval foray into Canada. And so, excited to have them here. So we're just going to do a short, something like 20-25 minute interview here and talk about some of the issues and what's been going on with that. So I guess I'll start with you, Josh. And so Josh or Luke, and Luke or Josh, and...
Josh, Luke is on your left, so there you go.
Awesome. Before I get to my first question, let me introduce folks. Apparently I'm not as good as Brian or Micah at this. So Josh and Luke are contributors at Hockey Graphs and creators and maintainers of evolving-hockey.com. And since 2016, they've worked in tandem to provide robust, advanced, and accessible metrics and models to the public. And then on your right is Brad Timmins. And Brad runs Natural Statric and does data analysis for an Ottawa area manufacturer. So without further ado, Josh or Luke, you start just by talking about generally what is the issue for anybody in the audience that's not familiar.
Yeah, so the NHL tracks locations of events that occur during a game. These include shots, missed shots, giveaways, hits, and so forth. And a lot of those events and special locations are tracked on a coordinate, like a grid system, which is just the rink. And those are put in a position, and we have access to those. And a lot of those coordinates are used to build various other models. So we use it heavily for our expected goals model, but also you can derive distance of a shot to net, for instance. And you know, that goes back to 2007 for us, and what we have available. And what ended up happening was something that kind of came on slowly as Luke and I were looking over kind of early season results and whatnot, was that we noticed that there were some discrepancies in the XG values over the league. And we kind of did a little bit of digging, and I guess we can get into this a little bit later, but the kind of the simple version was that there was a specific issue with where shots were being recorded generally right in front of the crease. So for the most part, it was just, everything looked like it had been pushed further away from outside the blue paint than what you would expect if you compare those locations in the first, what ended up being the first 91 games of the season compared to, say, the first 91 games over the last few seasons. Everything looked like the shots had been pushed further out, and ultimately it was confirmed by multiple sources, and then the league was very quick in fixing it, and then, was it maybe a week or two ago, that I think they went back and fixed everything for the first 91 games. So that's the quick kind of the issue with what was going on there.
Awesome. Thank you for that overview. Brad, can you talk a little bit about sort of why this stuff matters? You know, why the change in the distribution of the shot locations, why that has an impact, and the sorts of things it has an impact on?
Well, any measure of shot quality relies on that location information. That's the most critical part. It'll show up in any kind of danger ranking on the shots, in any expected goals model. It shows up on heat maps or shot maps, anything like that. Beyond that, it also impacted the recorded distances. So the distances that are recorded in the NHL's play-by-play files appear to be based off of the coordinates recorded. So when the coordinates were off, the distances that were showing up were also off.
Awesome. And so I guess this I'll throw out to sort of each of you in turn. And Josh mentioned, right, that they sort of, but I guess first, how did you realize really that there was a problem, and sort of what did that look like? And then I guess, let's start there, and then I'll talk next about sort of what follows from that.
Yeah, so I think initially, like, I just always, like, in checking, like, our expected goal model against the total league goals, because ideally, the total expected goals that are taken in the league should line up pretty closely to actual goal scoring, like, and if it doesn't, then it, like, something's kind of weird, and it's either something that's kind of interesting, like, oh wow, like, offense is way up this year, or something is wrong. And so I was just kind of checking, and I noticed, I think at the time when I looked, there were like 160 goals scored, and this was a couple of weeks into the season, I think. No, it would have been, I don't know, what is that, goals, I don't even know. But anyway, it would have been like, there were like 160 goals scored, and then we had a total of 100 expected goals scored, which is very, very low, and that's really, and so that to me, so then I, basically what I did is I went and checked against Natural Stat Trick what their XG model was, and also what Money Puck had, and it was basically, all of our models were basically in line, which either said something about offense in the league, and shooting percentage in the league had been up at that point, but it was not nearly close enough to what the discrepancy was between expected goal score and the actual goal scoring, and so I think that kind of like put a little nugget in my head to go like, okay, something weird is going on here, and then we kind of took a look at it, and just Josh kind of got a little deeper. Yeah, so like continuing, as Luke had mentioned, and we were working on some of our, so we have a natural separation of kind of our duties of what we do that we just naturally go into, and so Luke was kind of doing some of the data structure in the table and setting up like kind of a lot of our database and that, and I was setting up kind of more of the live game charts on our site, and I noticed because I was getting them formatted that a lot of the individual we set on they're kind of the same ones as Greg's like hockey stats filled ones, you know, the cumulative rolling I guess charts or plots. And we have a dashed line that goes across and shows the league average, and I was looking as I was formatting that almost every game, every team was coming in below league average over the last, like what last year's league average was or something. And as I got ready, as we also do a video thread on our Evolving Hockey Twitter account that kind of looks at our current XG model and looks at for the week, you know, what the highest value shots were that week. And I started to just, as I went through and I clipped like 10 videos, and it took me, I don't know, like I went through everything and I found it and I got it all ready and I was like, good, this is the first one, we're ready to go. And then I just like went through each one of them, and as I was looking at the information, I just noticed that all of the distances looked pretty off. Like they were off by a couple feet, and I mean, I guess for the record, there are, and we get a lot of people who add us on Twitter all the time about how like, oh, this shot's wrong, you know, or this one is wrong, or like, you know, blah, 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 the league's terrible, or whatever, because this one shot's off. But for the most part, the locations are all pretty good outside of a few outliers. But I noticed the trend on all 10 of our kind of high-value XG stuff, and that was kind of on the Sunday that we then posted that thread that went out that was kind of like, this looks like it's an issue, and then the next day, Brad and Micah specifically also kind of confirmed that that was what was going on. So that was kind of our process of getting into it.
So while that's going on in Minnesota, what's happening in Ontario?
Yeah, so the next day when I saw their thread talking about it, I mean, these guys are pretty good at what they do, they know what they're doing, so I had pretty good faith that what they had found was they hadn't stumbled across something that was completely fake and they made it all up or made a mistake, so I did go about confirming it the same way, and same thing, I checked my XG totals and they were coming in. My XG model is fairly conservative, so it always comes in a little low, but it was coming in a lot lower than I would expect, so that lined up. And same thing, I loaded the video and checked the locations that were recorded of several goals against what they were showing up on the video, and yeah, some of them were drastically off.
So then, Brad, what's the next step? I mean, you know, the twins here, you, Micah, you've noticed this, you put it out there on Twitter. I mean, is there just, you know, is there somebody at the NHL, has they got a number that you can call and say, hey, you know, fix your data, or What happens next?
Well, there were a few theories going around about what was wrong. There was the idea that maybe they were recording, there was a methodology change, that they were recording the location of the shooter rather than where the puck left the stick. That turned out to be false. I think these guys might have more information on where the league stepped in.
Yeah, I think because the tweet got a lot of, basically, pretty much that night, we had some people kind of contacting us, basically saying they're looking into this. So, no, there isn't a phone number you can call, unfortunately, I guess.
But Twitter works?
Maybe fortunately, though, because who knows, like, I mean, you know, considering some of our mentions, maybe that's a good thing. But, it's mostly like we, you know, have some people that we know who know people, and we're able to kind of filter things through other things, and things got done. So, yeah.
I guess to add on to that, what ultimately was that it was confirmed by, I think, Greg Wyshynski and then Elliot Friedman's 31 Thoughts article. They both confirmed with the league that it was something that was a problem, and they were fixing it, and we could, just looking at the data, see, I think it was game 92, and after that, everything was back to normal. And so then it was only a matter of, that was like, okay, this is great, because for us it was, I mean, if those locations stayed the way that they were, so like for the first day or two, it was just like, well, all of the XG models are ruined. Like that was pretty much what we thought at first, because it was like, because the shots that were specifically affected were so close to the net, those are the ones that have the highest values. And when you lose the comparison of XG to actual goal scoring, I think that kind of erodes all ability to really use that in the way that everyone has used it. And so when it was confirmed by the big journalists, that was when we knew that it was like, what we had been hearing was correct.
You want to add anything, Brad?
No, I think that.
So, let me back up a little bit, actually, and maybe Brad, I'll start with you. The process of recording the shots, like before this year, what sort of understanding do you have of that process that maybe you could describe to folks? Because I don't know that sort of your everyday fan understands sort of where this data comes from.
Yeah, so unlike these guys, I don't have somebody who contacted me through somebody else from the league. But from my understanding, all this information, they use tablets to record them. And again, this is probably third-hand information, maybe even further away, but from my understanding was there was some type of technology change that happened over the off-season, going into this season, and I don't know if it was a calibration issue or something to do with that technology change. The methodology that they were using didn't change, from my understanding.
Just to add to that, I was going to say that it's not, let's just say that it's not easy to figure out how the league tracks this. Like if you're just from the public like we are and you don't have context in the league, you can't really, like you said, you can't call a number. It's not something, it's just something that ESPN and Sportsnet and the websites that use this, they get the data and people just look at it, but the process of it isn't particularly public. I think that it's some kind of computer system that is then people physically are clicking or touching a pad or something that then puts the location that gets collected and then fed into their API. Basically, I think is how it works. Yeah.
So I guess I can add a little bit because I've done a little bit of stuff with this and historically looked at it, but my understanding is in each rink there's a team of folks who are watching the game live and doing some sort of recording. And so you do have human beings right now, hopefully we're going to get to tracking and this becomes automated, right? But you do have a team of an order of magnitude of 6 people who are tracking things and marking things, and I think they've moved to an iPad now. I don't know if that was necessarily true when the original system came out, but you have this sort of manual process for doing that. So are we all good if I go and re-scrape the beginning of the season and everything seems good?
Yeah, we kind of went back and we had been re-scraping every game, every day, because I wasn't sure when the fix was going to go into play, so that's not happening anymore. But yeah, we basically verified. We ran the same test we did before, and I think, Mike, I think did too, and Brad, I think. So, yeah, it's basically back to where, like they fixed it for game 92 and on, and so after that, everything was fine. But it was just the first 91 games that they hadn't updated. So we went back and checked, and everything's good now. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything you want to add, Brad?
Yeah, everything, like you said, everything's good, with one exception. When they updated the reports with the new coordinates, the distances updated, the coordinates updated, if the zone was wrong, so if the incorrect coordinates had it in a different zone, the zone didn't come. In the district, yeah.
So you could have had a shot, say, just outside the blue line
Yeah,
that was listed as neutral zone. The change moves it into the offensive zone. It's still listed as neutral zone.
yeah, that's the first example I found was a shot that's listed as in the neutral zone that is listed as a distance of 20 feet.
Seems like it might not be outside the blue line. Yeah. Why don't we open it up for some questions? And I think I'm going to hand the mic off to a couple of people. Actually, Patrick, you want to come grab one of these? Questions?
So I don't know the domain, but I wonder, like, you know when you do the face-off and you drop a puck, when you did like your game 1 to 91 and then onwards, did you notice like a variance between color true north and the rest of the data set?
So based off of location?
Yeah.
I looked into that, and the only events that had the issues were misses, shots, and goals. Blocks were all fine, face-offs, hits, everything else, there was no change, and they all seemed to line up with their actual location.
Yes. So I also sprayed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that there was actually some technology already put in the pack that was giving the wrong, that was bad. That what was making the most sense. Okay, there is something in the pack that broadcasts the wrong technology. Now the events that don't involve the pack are correct.
That was what, like, Brad was saying, is when, it was kind of, I mean, I don't know, this is probably a better metaphor, kind of like the Wild West, when, like, for a couple days where nobody knew what was going on, and we were all trying to figure out, like, some people thought it was, like, they changed it from, like, to just Jersey, like, number location, or, like, a lot of people thought they were tracking, that the league was moving towards their, you know, the future player tracking. It was like, okay, we're not gonna get where the puck is, or all this stuff, and I think ultimately, it looks like everything's back in line still, but it was kind of interesting. I guess it was just interesting, you know, throwing DMs around to all of the other public people. You know, thank you also for everybody that's kind of been looking into this, but it was just a very interesting time. Also a little bit like scary and depressing for us. but luckily that's fine and we're all good now. But yeah.
Hi. So just from a league standpoint, just exactly what the issue was is that we do have official scores. They track XY manually. In the off season, we did an upgrade to the actual tablet that they're going to use, so it's more high def. And the goal was for more accuracy. Unfortunately, there was a bug in the dimensions of the crease itself, which then essentially, when they were tracking around the crease, that's what caused the issue. Thank you to you guys, the community, for catching it. We should have caught it sooner. We were actually looking for other things and sort of made the assumption that the shots by the crease would be correct. Honestly, as soon as you guys put out that tweet, we knew the issue, we fixed it right away, and then why it took sort of the month is because we had to go through every single shot from every game that was affected, hand correct it, and that's why it took us basically a month to backfill, but everything is correct now. This was not because of player and puck tracking, this was all just sort of an issue with the upgrade system that we did. But really, thank you to the whole community for catching it, because we wouldn't have caught it as fast as you guys, and so really, we appreciate your feedback.
Oh, thank you. And I just want to say that I do think that people they don't necessarily appreciate the fact that we get shot locations in the first place. So that just like, it's a really vital piece of information for hockey, is knowing where shots came from. It's like the most important thing that we can have. I mean, there's some other things, but even with player tracking, I would still imagine that shot location is going to be, so just the fact that we have that data, and I mean, it was corrected so fast by the league. I mean, thank you and everybody for working on it and getting it resolved so quickly.
Can I ask a question that's not related to this topic? Again, I already asked this in the morning, actually, X goals. Since you guys are out there, can you maybe just dive a little bit deeper into how you do it? And, you know, Brad was saying his model's a bit more conservative, so how do you get to that point? And secondly, do you think it's the best predictor right now? Do you think it's like the best analytics metric?
Yeah, well, so yeah, X goal is expected goals. XG is it's a model binary classification that essentially attempts to assign a probability for how likely a given shot will become a goal. And so they range from 0 to 1. For the most part, it depends on the model. You can use different algorithms. So in the past, something a little bit more, I don't want to call it, I guess that there are a couple. So Brad, I believe, used logistic regression for yours. Yeah, and we use, and Dawson's original, don't think about how Dawson's Brigham's original model was also, I believe, logistic regression. And the original Corsica model was logistic, but then Manny switched to, I believe, a GBM, or a gradient boosted machine. So there are a couple different ways. Our current model is, we use an algorithm called XGBoost, which is essentially it's a gradient boosted model that has a lot more hyperparameters that you can tune to better do it. It's kind of more in the like pure machine learning area. There's a lot of other algorithms that can do it, but the idea is that you get essentially the play-by-play you get in shot order, and that's your design matrix. And so we throw in a bunch of different features in the model. So shot distance, with GBMs, you're able to throw in the actual location on the ice and use coordinates, and then one thing that you can do is throw in prior events, which helps quite a bit. So the distance from, and Peter at Money Puck does a similar thing, which we kind of got inspiration for, is you can look at like how far away was the prior hit or giveaway, or how long ago was it. So shots that occurred within like a second or two of one another are oftentimes that can indicate to the model that might be a rebound. You can say like if in our particular model, the prior y coordinate, which is the size of the ice, not the home and away, but the actual. So if a shot came from, for instance, a specific y coordinate, and then the prior shot did, and then one on net came on the other side, the model is kind of able to deal with that and take that into account. So overall, I think to your other question is kind of I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts on it, and maybe I don't want to cover right here. But I think that it does a very good job of, specifically for defense, letting us better evaluate how skaters, how good they are defensively. I think is one of its benefits, and goalies too. Separating the skaters from goalies is one thing I think that's really good.
Does it update? Do you update it every year, or is this like constantly changing? Sorry.
Well, so I was going to maybe do a talk on this in Columbus, so I don't want to get into it too much, but everyone go to Columbus for Allison's conference. It's going to be great too. But we redid it last year. That was a lot of it because Luke wrote a newspaper, and we wanted to kind of redo it then. I believe in the past people have done it differently, so some people do it over say prior 3 years. Ours for even strength is 9 years, power play is 9 years, and then we have a shorthanded and we have an empty net XG model, which is hilarious, and it's like, don't use it. It's there specifically for our live game charts so that we can just have that at all situations, but it's like hilarious because like all of them are like 80% shot, you know, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so we redid it, but there are some like varying kind of schools of thought on how it works and what you should do and should you use it for in sample and all this stuff. You can really go on a long way about it.
One more question? Does anyone have questions? Okay, then thank you for our presenter.